In the heart of downtown Los Angeles stands the Cecil Hotel, a place with more shadows than rooms, more screams than stories, once glamorous, now haunted by decades of tragedy. But nothing compares to what happened in 2013, when 21-year-old student Elisa Lam checked in and never checked out. Days later, hotel guests began to complain that their water tasted strange, metallic, bitter, and dark. Some said it ran black before clearing again. Maintenance workers climbed to the rooftop tanks to investigate, expecting a broken pipe or clogged filter. Instead, they found something unimaginable. Elisa's lifeless body was floating inside the water tank, her death as mysterious as her disappearance. Before anyone could understand how she ended up there, the entire world had already seen the haunting video of her final moments. Captured by a single hotel elevator camera, the footage showed Elisa acting bizarrely, pressing every button, stepping in and out of the elevator, hiding in corners, and gesturing toward something or someone just outside the door. Her expression shifted between fear and confusion, like she was running from an invisible threat. Within hours of its release, the video spread across the internet like wildfire, drawing millions of views and endless speculation. Some claimed she was under the influence of drugs or experiencing a psychotic episode. Others whispered darker theories that she was being stalked, possessed, or even pulled into the hotel's long history of evil. To understand what happened to Elisa Lam, we have to understand where it all began, the place itself. The Cecil Hotel isn't just any building in Los Angeles. Built in the 1920s, it was meant to be a symbol of luxury and modern success. Its marble lobby, gold accents, and grand chandeliers once welcomed businessmen, travelers, and Hollywood dreamers. But as the decades passed, the glamour faded. The Great Depression hit, the area decayed, and Skid Row spread around it like a wound. The Cecil became a refuge for the broken, the desperate, and the forgotten, drug addicts, fugitives, and the homeless. Over the years, it turned into something else entirely, a graveyard for lost souls. Murders, suicides, disappearances too many to count. The kind of place where evil didn't just visit, it stayed. Elisa Lam arrived in Los Angeles full of hope, a 21-year-old student from Vancouver, Canada. She had decided to take a solo trip along the West Coast, a break from studies, a chance to see the world. She posted regularly on her Tumblr, a digital diary filled with thoughts, poetry, and pieces of her mind. Her words were tender, often vulnerable, revealing a girl trying to find her place in a noisy, indifferent world. When she checked into the Cecil Hotel on January 28, 2013, she had no idea she was stepping into one of the darkest corners of human history. In those early days, everything seemed fine. Elisa explored the city, visited bookstores, coffee shops, and museums. She loved art, literature, and small human moments. Her posts reflected quiet excitement and curiosity. But slowly, things began to shift. Hotel staff later reported that Elisa's behavior grew erratic. She was moved from a shared room to a private one after her roommates complained of odd behavior. No one knew what she was going through, but something was clearly changing. And then, she vanished. On February 1st, Elisa failed to contact her family, a red flag that sent waves of panic across 2 countries. Her parents, who spoke to her daily, immediately called Los Angeles police. Flyers appeared across the city with her face, dark hair, kind smile, bright eyes. The LAPD began a massive search operation. Dogs were brought in, rooms searched, the building combed from basement to rooftop. Nothing, no signs of forced entry, no struggle, just a missing girl in a hotel with too many secrets. Days later, the police released the elevator footage, hoping for clues. What they found instead was confusion. Why did the elevator door stay open for so long? Why did Elisa act like she was hiding from someone? Why did her hands move in strange, almost ritualistic gestures? And most disturbing of all, who, or what, was she looking at? That video became the center of everything. To some, it was proof of mental illness, a young woman suffering a manic episode due to bipolar disorder. To others, it was evidence of something sinister. Perhaps she was being hunted, followed, or possessed. Theories spiraled across Reddit, YouTube, and forums worldwide. Some even connected her case to the hotel's dark history. 2 infamous serial killers, Richard Ramirez and Jack Unterweger, once lived there. Others said the Cecil was cursed, its very walls soaked in despair. Whatever the truth was, it didn't matter anymore. Elisa Lam was gone. and in her place remained only questions. Questions that no one, not even science or police reports, could truly answer. The discovery of Elisa Lam's body changed everything. For days her name had floated through news headlines as just another missing person in Los Angeles. But once police officers climbed that rusty ladder to the rooftop and peered into the dark water tank, the story turned into something else, something that refused to make sense. The tank's heavy metal lid wasn't easy to lift, and the roof itself was locked, with alarms on every door. The question burned in everyone's mind: how could Elisa, a young woman of small build, have reached that place alone, undetected, and ended up inside a sealed tank? The rooftop was restricted, only accessible through stairwells that required staff keys, and yet, there she was, naked, lifeless, her clothes floating beside her like shadows of the truth. The autopsy would reveal no signs of physical trauma, assault, or external wounds. Toxicology reports found traces of her prescribed medication, used for bipolar disorder, but nothing else. No drugs, no alcohol, nothing that could explain the erratic behavior seen in the elevator footage. The world wanted answers, and the lack of them became the fuel for obsession. In the days that followed, the Cecil Hotel became a crime scene, a tourist attraction, and a haunted museum all at once. Reporters camped outside its decaying doors, while online detectives pored over every frame of the elevator video. The internet dissected it with surgical precision, frame by frame, second by second, searching for clues hidden in her gestures, her eyes, the flickering lights. Some claimed they saw a shadow move outside the door just as Elisa stepped out. Others slowed down the footage to prove that someone might have edited it. Timestamps appeared inconsistent, leading to theories of police manipulation. Why would law enforcement release an altered video unless there was something or someone they didn't want the world to see? Meanwhile, guests at the Cecil began sharing their experiences. Many complained about water pressure and color long before Elisa's body was discovered. Some reported strange noises coming from the pipes, like muffled thuds echoing through the walls. Others described having nightmares or seeing shadows move across the dim hallways. One couple even claimed that on the night Elisa vanished, they heard footsteps running up the emergency stairs, followed by a loud metallic clang like the sound of a heavy lid closing. To them, it meant someone else was there that night. As investigators tried to piece together Elisa's final hours, her digital footprint became their only map. On her Tumblr blog, she had written about loneliness, anxiety, and the fear of losing control. Yet her posts were also filled with curiosity and hope, plans for the future, reflections on travel, and little observations about the people she met. Her final entry read almost like a farewell: "You always haunted by the idea you wasting your life." No one knew whether that was her original thought or a quote she'd shared, but its timing haunted everyone who read it. The LAPD's official narrative was simple. Elisa accidentally drowned after experiencing a manic episode caused by her bipolar disorder. They theorized that she may have climbed onto the roof through an unsecured door or fire escape, undressed in confusion, and slipped into the tank on her own. But to the millions of people watching the case unfold online, that explanation felt incomplete, almost insulting. Too many questions lingered. How did she lift a tank lid that was too heavy for one person? How did she close it behind her if she had fallen in? Why did no one hear a thing, even though the roof was directly above the guests' rooms? And then there was the water. For nearly 3 weeks, hundreds of guests had unknowingly consumed and bathed in the contaminated water supply. The horror of that revelation created a wave of public outrage and disgust. Tourists fled, news cameras circled, and the Cecil's already dark reputation turned pitch black. The hotel management tried to defend themselves, claiming that Elisa's death was an accident they couldn't have prevented. But the public wasn't convinced. Lawsuits followed, claiming negligence, unsafe conditions, and emotional distress. As all this chaos unfolded, something else began to happen, something uniquely modern. Online communities began treating Elisa's story like a puzzle to be solved by collective effort. Reddit threads, YouTube channels, podcasts, and conspiracy blogs dedicated themselves entirely to the Elisa Lam case. Every detail, her hand movements in the elevator, her clothing choices, her medications became evidence. Amateur sleuths created elaborate timelines, comparing elevator schematics, hotel floor plans, and even wind direction data to prove that Elisa could not have acted alone. Some theories bordered on supernatural, Perhaps Eliza was possessed by one of the hotel's restless spirits. Others dove into darker territory: government experiments, mind control, or occult rituals. The most persistent theory connected her death to the Cecil's infamous history. In the 1980s, serial killer Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker, had lived there during his killing spree. Later, Austrian murderer Jack Unterweger also stayed at the hotel, allegedly using it as his hunting ground. Dozens of suicides, overdoses, and unexplained deaths occurred in those same walls. The building seemed to feed on tragedy, as if it collected broken souls. Could Elisa Lam have become its next victim, not through human hands, but through something darker embedded in the place itself? Some said the elevator video wasn't just strange, it was cursed. Those who watched it claimed to feel chills, dizziness, or sudden anxiety. A few conspiracy videos went viral, claiming the elevator scene was a ritual reenactment, and that Eliza was being guided or controlled by unseen forces. But perhaps the strangest twist of all came from an eerie coincidence. Around the same time as Elisa's death, a tuberculosis outbreak occurred on Skid Row, just blocks from the hotel. The test used to detect it was named LSR. The internet exploded with theories linking the outbreak to Elisa's case, suggesting a cover-up or government experiment gone wrong. Scientists dismissed it as a pure coincidence, but for conspiracy believers, it was the final confirmation that Elisa's death was no accident. It was part of something larger, something hidden in plain sight. As months passed, the world moved on, but the mystery never truly died. Netflix, YouTubers, and journalists would revisit it again and again, each retelling offering new clues but no closure. Even the simplest facts refused to stay still. One report claimed the water tank lid was found open. Another said it was closed. Some claimed the police dogs had reached the roof earlier but found nothing. Others said her belongings like her watch and phone were missing, though later reports said they were recovered from the tank. The inconsistencies became part of the legend, proof that somewhere between fact and fiction, the truth was quietly slipping away. Elisa Lam's family, quiet and dignified, rarely spoke publicly. They described her as bright, creative, and deeply loved, but also someone who struggled with mental health. They refused to believe that her illness alone explained everything. The world wanted closure, they wanted peace, but both seemed impossible. The case became a mirror reflecting modern society's obsession with tragedy, mystery, and digital ghosts. The more people searched for answers, the less they found. Each theory contradicted the next. Each clue unraveled into confusion. Over time, the Cecil Hotel itself shut its doors for renovation. The sign faded, windows shattered, and the building fell silent once more. Yet online, Elisa's story lived unfrozen in that elevator, in that flickering light, in those haunting few minutes that refused to fade from collective memory. People still return to the video years later, mesmerized by the sense that they are watching something they shouldn't. A moment where reality glitches, logic bends, and fear becomes something physical. Even today, no one can agree on what really happened that night. Was it a tragic accident brought on by mental illness and bad luck? Was someone following her, hiding just outside the frame? Or was the Cecil Hotel itself a place where darkness simply swallows those who wander too close? Whatever the truth may be, one thing remains certain. Elisa Lam's story has become more than a mystery. As a reflection of human fear, curiosity, and the haunting power of the unknown. And somewhere, in that elevator, frozen in black and white, she still moves, pressing buttons, looking for escape, trapped forever between the living and the dead. The Cecil Hotel remained eerily still in the days following Elisa Lam's disappearance. Guests whispered in the hallways, avoiding the elevator where the haunting footage was captured. The management avoided eye contact with anyone who asked questions, and the air in the building grew thicker, heavier, as if holding its breath. Police officers came and went, their radios crackling faintly, echoing through the narrow corridors. Search dogs sniffed at every door, every corner of the old, decaying structure, yet nothing concrete surfaced. Elisa Lam had vanished completely. At first, the detectives assumed she might have walked out of the hotel on her own. Downtown Los Angeles wasn't exactly safe, especially near Skid Row. But when they checked the surveillance footage from every exit, Elisa never appeared leaving. The last trace of her was that unsettling elevator video, the one where she seemed to be talking to someone invisible, making erratic hand gestures, hiding in corners as if evading something that couldn't be seen. People online dissected the footage frame by frame. Some said she was under the influence of drugs. Others believed she was having a mental breakdown. But a darker theory spread quickly, that something supernatural was inside that elevator with her. Paranormal enthusiasts claimed to spot faint shadows moving when Elisa wasn't, or a hand reflected in the metal door that didn't belong to her. The video became an internet obsession, a viral mystery that would only deepen as the days dragged on. Meanwhile, guests at the Cecil began to complain about the water. It came out of the taps dark and foul-smelling. Some described it as blackish at first, then gradually turning to a strange reddish tint. Others reported low water pressure. A few even mentioned that the taste was off, metallic, bitter, like something rotten. For nearly 2 weeks, the issue persisted until a maintenance worker was finally dispatched to check the rooftop water tanks. He climbed the narrow ladder, the sun glaring off the concrete roof, and walked toward the 4 large black tanks that supplied water to the entire building. Each tank was sealed with a heavy metal lid. The worker unscrewed one of them, and what he saw made him scream. Floating inside, face up in the murky water, was the decomposing body of Elisa Lam. Her clothes, the same red hoodie and black shorts from the elevator video, were tangled around her. Her skin had turned pale, almost grey. Her hair fanned out around her like dark seaweed. The stench was unbearable. When police arrived, the entire building was evacuated. The guests who had been drinking, showering, and brushing their teeth with that water were horrified. Reporters crowded outside as investigators sealed the area with yellow tape. The news spread like wildfire. Elisa Lam had been missing for 19 days. The question was, how did she get into that tank? The tanks were massive, standing taller than most people, and the lids were heavy enough to require force to open. The roof access door was locked, and only hotel staff had the key. The ladders were difficult to climb without assistance. Yet somehow, Elisa, a small 21-year-old woman, had managed to get inside alone. There were no signs of struggle, no bruises suggesting foul play. The toxicology report showed no trace of illegal drugs, only small amounts of her prescribed medication for bipolar disorder. Police ruled it an accidental drowning, but no one truly believed that. Online investigators began to piece together details that didn't fit. Some noted that the water tanks were not easily accessible. Others pointed out that the lid had been found closed. How could Elisa have closed it from the inside? Then came the theories about the elevator video, that she wasn't alone, that someone had been cropped out of the footage. Reddit threads exploded with speculation, linking her case to earlier deaths and disappearances at the same hotel. The Cecil had a long, infamous history. It was once home to serial killers like Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, who had stayed in one of its rooms during his murder spree. Another serial killer, Jack Unterweger, had also lived there. Countless suicides had taken place in its hallways and windows. Guests jumped to their deaths, overdosed, or simply vanished. Locals called it the Suicide Hotel. And now, Elisa Lam had become its latest victim, or perhaps, its latest offering. Some began to notice parallels between Elisa's death and a 2005 horror film called Dark Water, in which a girl's body is discovered inside a rooftop water tank of an old apartment building, contaminating the water. The film was even set in Los Angeles. The similarities were so uncanny that conspiracy theorists claimed Elisa's death was a recreation of the movie, either by a cult, an obsessed fan, or something more sinister manipulating events. Then, there was her Tumblr blog. Months before her death, Elisa had been documenting her trip through California. She wrote about her feelings, her loneliness, her mental health struggles, but also strange, cryptic messages. One post mentioned she felt followed. Another described her as fading. In her final entry, written just before she disappeared, she said she was tired, that she wanted to go home. But the most chilling discovery came later. Her Tumblr account continued posting after her death. Some believed it was just the queue function, automatically publishing her scheduled posts. Others weren't so sure. The content of those posts, surreal images, odd quotes, and unsettling reblogs, seemed almost intentional, as if Elisa was still speaking from beyond the grave. The mystery deepened further when people noticed something strange about her name. Elisa was also the acronym for an actual medical test, the enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay used to detect infections. Around the same time, an outbreak of tuberculosis had occurred near Skid Row, not far from the Cecil Hotel. The test kits used in that outbreak were called La Melissa coincidence, maybe, But online, the coincidence became fuel for even more sinister interpretations. Some said Elisa had been a test subject, others claimed she uncovered something she shouldn't have. Still, despite the storm of speculation, no solid evidence ever emerged to contradict the official report. The authorities closed the case. Years passed. The Cecil Hotel was rebranded as Stay on Main, but the name change couldn't cleanse its history. The elevator video continued to circulate online, generating millions of views. Paranormal investigators visited the building, conducting seances and EVP sessions, claiming to capture whispers in the halls. Some guests said they saw a girl's reflection in the elevator mirror when they were alone. Others heard footsteps pacing above them, even when the rooftop was sealed shut. Even Netflix's documentary years later couldn't answer everything. Interviews with hotel staff and police raised as many questions as they answered. The coroner's report suggested that Elisa may have suffered a manic episode and climbed into the tank herself, but her parents never accepted that. They filed a lawsuit against the hotel, arguing the rooftop should have been secured. The court dismissed the case, calling her death unforeseeable. But if you speak to anyone who's stayed at the Cecil since then, you'll hear the same story whispered in low voices, that the elevator still stops on Elisa's floor at 2:59 a.m., the exact time the security footage was taken. Sometimes the doors open by themselves, as if waiting for someone to step inside. There are those who claim the hotel is cursed, that the souls of those who died there are trapped between its crumbling walls. Others believe the place itself feeds on despair, drawing in lost souls like Elisa, who come seeking adventure and find only darkness. If you ever visit downtown Los Angeles and stand outside the Cecil Hotel, now closed, its windows sealed, its once lively lobby dark and silent, you might feel it too. A cold wind that seems to whisper your name, a faint hum from the pipes above, like something moving slowly through the water. And if you listen closely enough, you might hear her voice, soft, echoing, calling from the tank, "Help me." Because the truth about Elisa Lam's disappearance isn't buried in any police report or online thread. It lingers in that building, in every flickering light, in every drop of water that falls from its rusted taps. The Cecil Hotel remembers. It always remembers. And sometimes, late at night, it still plays that video on a loop. Unseen, as if the walls themselves are watching her dance in the elevator one last time, forever trapped between floors.